What is your childhood memory that you thought was normal, but realized it was traumatic later in your life? As a kid, I used to brag about being able to sleep for over 24 hours straight to friends or teachers or really whoever would listen. I was mid-sentence mentioning it as a freshman in college when I realized my divorced father was drugging preschool me with cold meds so I'd sleep through his weekends of custody with me. It really fucked up my sense of reality for a while. Fuck your dad for doing that. That's so fucked up. Update. Thanks for the silver kind stranger. It's my first time getting a medal. In middle school, I started getting a lot of stomach itches due to undiagnosed acid reflux. I was also a really anxious kid, so I feared I was gonna throw up a lot. Thus, almost every night I'd take half a Tums. When I offhandedly told my best friend, she looked terrified. "I think you might be addicted to Tums," she said. We had just learned about addiction, and I told her I didn't feel withdrawal without the medicine, and that I was just taking it as prescribed. She still seemed unconvinced, so I told her she was being silly and dropped it. In high school, I learned her brother's drug addiction had been tearing the family apart, and she was probably terrified one of her closest friends was using too. Edit. Jesus. 17,000 upvotes. I didn't think the story would click with that many people. When I was about 10, my mother had to leave the country for work for almost a year, so she left me to live with her longtime boyfriend. Every night he'd come home drunk, which I thought was hilarious. He'd come into my room and sit on my bed touching me, especially on the butt, and tell me how much I look like my mother, and try to pull my sheets off. I'd just pretend to sleep. I got annoyed that he kept waking me up, so I started locking my door at night. The fucker broke off the lock and kept doing it. He also once threw a plate at me, he missed, for giggling at lunch. I never thought of telling my mum about this because I thought it was normal. My older sister used to play our Disney read-along tapes to my younger brother and I, whilst guiding us through the words in the books. She taught us to read this way. I didn't realize till years later that she was using the tapes to cover the sound of our parents fighting downstairs. It saddens me that she never got to have a childhood. Your sister is an incredible human being. What an elegant way to protect you, entertain you and care for you all at once. This question reminds me of that redditor whose mom made him have a butt plug in at all times in fear of the devil doing bad stuff or something. The mom got busted when he had to use the bathroom during school and asked the teacher to help remove his poop plug, or whatever he called it as a kid. Was truly a fucked up story in a similar AskReddit thread. I remember that. The kid had dropped the poop plug into the toilet, flushed it, I believe, and asked a teacher for help to get it back. The mother had schizophrenia, hence the extreme religious thoughts of Satan turning her son gay. Every time my dad would pick me up from school, he'd leave me in the car for 3+ hours whilst he went into the local pub and got drunk. Nothing to do, just sitting there in the car. He'd come back after the few hours had passed and throw me a bag of chips as he started the car. I always thought I was the luckiest boy in the world to be getting those chips. Edit. The response to this has been beyond overwhelming. Even when I wrote this, I didn't think it was half a bigger deal as I have come to realize from this post. Thank you so much to all those who shared stories and sympathies. The world has some nasty people, but goddamn, does it have some beautiful people too. One of the things that makes Reddit great is that there are so many of the latter to be found. Thank you. For those of you who shared similar stories, I hope you find a little peace out of realizing how many of us there are. I sure do. Finally, if those of you in my boat feel inadequate, suffer from imposter syndrome, compulsive need to apologize and make right, shame for resenting your dad in spite of knowing he did some shitty things, anxiety, shame, or a host of other little ever-present storm clouds, just know you're not alone. This thread has helped me realize where many of these issues have come from. I hope you all get past it and use the memory of it as a tool to do right with your kids one day. Be happy, you're worth the space occupy. My stepdad would frequently play fight me and my sister when my mom wasn't home, but his play fighting was actual abuse. Most of the abuse was punching and stuff, but the worst one I remember was him tying me to a chair with a shit ton of duct tape and tying my mouth and just leaving me there for over an hour. One year on Halloween, I was probably about 8 or 9 years old. My mom didn't let my sister and me go outside to do some trick or treat in the neighborhood, but bought us a new Barbie movie and lots of sweets instead. Also, we were allowed to stay up as late as we wanted to. It was because she was afraid our parents were divorced, father abusive, would try kidnapping us. He had tried before. Still, it is one of my most treasured childhood memories because we had a great evening. Just my mom, my sesame. Edit. Wow guys, you're incredible. Silver. Twice. Thank you so much. And thank you for all the kind words. My mother really is the best mum in the world. She gave up her whole life to protect us and make sure we would grow up happy, despite all the problems we had with my father. He died from cancer when I was 12 and afterwards things became a lot easier. She raised 2 loving, happy young women who love her more than anything else in the world, and I don't miss an opportunity to tell her how much she means to me. Because if this has told me one thing, it is you never know when something terrible will happen, and I want to make sure she knows I love her no matter what. I hope you all have someone who gives you the strength she has given my sister and me through all these dark years. 3. Edit 2. Gold. Thank you very much. I know exactly how your mom feels. My kid can't be in class pics because they post some on the school FB page and I can't have their father finding out where we are. It's been a couple years of quiet now, so hopefully that's that. Breaks my heart she's gotta be the odd one out, but better for us to be safe. Your ma is a good ma. Edit. Thank you for the gold friend. I'm very grateful I was able to get out and save my children from a lifetime of abuse. Not everyone is as fortunate as I. Edit. Wow, Platinum 2 feels like you're proud of me, and that is a very nice feeling, thank you. When I was in kindergarten they would make us kneel in a corner on some wood piece that was utterly painful for every time we hurt each other or cursed, which happened a lot apparently, and as soon as I got to elementary school I asked the teacher the first time I was in trouble where I should go kneel. They took attention to that, and long story short they called the police on our old kindergarten and it's now closed since 2006. Edit. To clarify a few questions. This took actually place in Eastern Bavaria in the early 2000s. It was a Catholic kindergarten and all of this was considered rather normal inside its walls. At my kindergarten, the teacher read us a book about another kindergarten where the protagonist, a kid, got locked up in a closet by a demon, his kindergarten teacher, and would then go on adventures to fight the demon/teacher. I remember our teacher telling us that this actually happens in some kindergartens in our city. My mom leaving me at different places with different people for months at a time, or when we would be driving I remember there would be times where she would tell me about the school she was going to take me to, and that I would live there. I remember her describing the horses they had, lies, and how much I would love it. She never ended up taking me there, but would always talk about it like it was some magical place. Found out from my uncle years later it was an orphanage. Only reason she didn't end up taking me is because he threatened to kill her if she did. My father and I had a game when I was a child. Help. Daddy, remember what hospital he went to last? My father was mentally ill and would hurt himself purposely to get more anxiety, antipsychotic and pain drugs. There were 5 hospitals within a 2-hour drive of us, and in those days, early 90s late 80s, there were no computer systems to track him like there is now. He would literally break his own fingers, burn himself with oil, anything to get what he needed. And it was my job to help him remember, so he wouldn't get caught. After he took his life, when I was 12, I had a lot of feelings and scary memories to deal with. It's been a long hard road, but I hope wherever his is, he's not in pain anymore. This should be higher up. My heart breaks for you. Hope life improved for you into your teen years. Went to pick up my uncle at a crack house when I was like 11. People sprawled out everywhere. Some lady was on the couch sleeping naked. Me and my cousins were just snickering cause we got to see boobies. Thanks for watching. Leave a like and subscribe. Also, turn on the bell icon for future notifications.